Hello everybody, it's your boy, Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming. Here today to talk about the takeaways from Xenoblade Chronicles 3, at least for me. So we are now a few months removed from the release of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I feel like we have given it a good enough time to digest and for opinions to form for the game. So, what are the big takeaways for the game overall? What do I want to see continue for the series, and what would I like to see revisions for? Mostly going broad strokes for this video, but there will be spoilers for the story and endgame content surrounding Xenoblade 3. So I think the biggest takeaway for the game should be the hero system. I think Blades were a more interesting mechanic story-wise because of the way the story implemented Blades and how it overall revolved around the blade driver mechanic, but as a gameplay function, heroes, in my opinion, are a massive step in the right direction. You remove the gacha role elements from 2, and have a wide cast of differing characters that you can find and add to your repertoire from both the main story and side content. It helps incentivize doing side quests and exploring the world on the chance you might find an elusive hero quest to add to your collection. The system overall is one of the biggest positives for the game, in my opinion, because so much revolves around it, and I love the entire gameplay flow surrounding this system, with getting a new class, or new classes, unlocking them, leveling them up, and then getting a new class, and repeating that cycle. Master arts and abilities are an excellent form of progression, going from class to class as well, and overall, the system mechanically is very well designed, and I believe adds a ton to the overall flow of Xenoblade 3's main story, and for your first playthrough. Okay, but maybe in the future they should not just show the character model for them in the future, because I knew Kamaravi was coming back the second he died, because I saw his silhouette on the hero page. Like, I got a feeling someone's going to be making a return. You can make it so the story is better with that bit of foreshadowing, but I don't think 3's was constructed like that. Just a small thing, but something important enough to note. But what the hero system does is add to the world building. Instead of having a blade we unlock, which becomes tied to us, the player, where they have to learn about the world around them, we learn about the world around the hero. These characters exist in this world and have their own interpersonal relationships with other side characters. So their quests seamlessly flesh out the world and overall cast of characters because they are already established characters living in the world of Ionios. I feel Monolith should really take to heart a lot of the positives that have arisen from the Blade and Hero system of 2 and 3 respectively, and I like to see this iteration in their acquisition that makes them more enjoyable and far less polarizing. The amount of people that I saw got turned off by 2 just because of the gacha elements, but loved 3 because it didn't have that element. Like, it's not an insignificant number of people. And I get that it's kind of anecdotal and not an actual established statistic, but still, I don't feel like people are like, I really wanted gacha rolls for this. At least, en masse. Now, let's talk about the world building. This is easily one of Monolith Soft's greatest staples when it comes to their games. They are able to introduce an entire world, develop it, and populate it with an interesting cast of characters, and honestly, I feel like the best position to have when it comes to what they should do for Xenoblade 4 is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just stick with this tried and true method. Big set pieces, a unique world, and flesh out that world through the characters while using a very human story about existential topics. That's a Xenoblade staple. And honestly, a summation of the entire franchise when we really think about it. And look, I get that it sounds like a bunch of concepts that should clash with one another, but Monolith are able to blend them together to create an interesting and dynamic world, have beautiful visuals, great music, larger-than-life set pieces to draw the eye, and then grab the player and their heart with the characters. It's a simple yet effective approach that I don't think has done Monolith wrong so far. Now, the biggest complaint for 3 that I've heard from people is that they feel their effort in 100% of the game before the end went to waste with the destruction of Ionios at the end of the game. And I get it. It's not it's not like one of those typical Xenoblade happy endings, but let's just flip the argument somewhat. Because it's also an argument that I used to hold myself for the ending, until I had more time to digest everything and realized they're probably getting follow-ups. People wouldn't have that complaint if they didn't fall in love with Ionios and its people to begin with. The fact that people's biggest complaint with the story is that the world is no longer there and all the effort they put in to it to make it a better place has gone to waste means they cared enough about it to do that content to begin with. They cared enough to know that that effort eventually led to the destruction of the world. Critique is valuable because more often than not, you can get more out of it than just a surface level "this is bad" statement. Monolith have always done a stellar job in making you care about the world itself. Okay, let's talk a gameplay. Combat is way more interesting far earlier in 3 compared to 2, in my opinion. I think 2 still has my favorite loop overall, but it only gets that good in the back half because they drip feed core mechanics. Xenoblade 3, on the other hand, gives you access to class switching and getting new ones rather early on, within the first few hours, and relies on just adding to the core of what's there more than adding whole new systems. Like, yeah, I get it, Noah gets some cool new Blade of Origin stuff later on, but I mean, come on. The gameplay is still fun even without that. It adds variety more so than core features with the progression of the game, and I think that is a really good direction for the series to go in for the future. What I do think could use some revision is in the chain attack system. Okay, let me finish pitchforks down. The actual chain attack system in 3 is really, really good, but god does it feel so disconnected from the regular flow of combat. Some people might actually like that, and fair play to you. Let me know in the comments if you do, but personally I'm a big fan of the flow of gameplay in 2, where you spend your time putting on the elemental orbs onto an enemy, and then spend the chain attack spending those orbs and trying to pop them. It was simple, but each section worked off each other and led to more grand strategy throughout the entire fight. Having individual effects for each party member in 3 on top of all the different ones for heroes was a great way to add strategy to the chain attack system and to constantly mix it up as you use new heroes and classes. I love that bit. And honestly, the TP system and managing that was really fun, and I loved how they broke it down upon the roles with DPS, tank, and healer. It was a great way to add some strategy to the whole mix. I really like the chain attack system that is there. I just wish there was a bit more cohesion between the regular gameplay bits with it. Now let's talk open world exploration, and this will probably become a separate video, so let's do really broad strokes here. The world itself is toned down compared to Xenoblade standards, and it relies way more on the key visual for Xenoblade 3, which is the Orion Corpse and the Blade of the Macarus. I prefer the vistas and diverse skyboxes of 1 and 2, but there is something to be said for the visual progression you get as you get closer to the Orion Titan, and soared with them getting bigger and bigger. The locations in this game are still gorgeous, but there was never a location like Sertol Marsh at night, or the land of Mortitha for me, to name a few. But I did like how they brought in references and throwbacks in the world to older games. The Macarus hand in the desert and blending Mactha with Mortitha are absolute standouts to me. What brilliant design there. Gave the sense that you are walking through some ruins from some ancient civilization, because you were essentially. And I love the dichotomy between the player base, where if you're new, you're wondering what the hell are all these places and all these ruins from, what's their story? And if you're a returning veteran from the series, like me, having played Xenoblade 1 and 2 before, you're like, oh, I know that bit, I know that bit, I know that bit, oh, that bit's here. Cool, that's the Macarus hand, it's in the desert, that looks freaking sweet. Oh, look, this is Mortitha crossed with Mactha. Erythia Sea, that's literally just Aerith Sea, that's awesome. And I think Erythia Sea is cool, but I prefer the splendor and grandeur of Aerith Sea personally, with the dichotomy between Alchemoth and Prison Island and the floating islands, and how it looked at between day and night and that dichotomy there. Oh, it's so good. The sword and the castle in Erythia are gorgeous, and holy crap, the music is good. Okay, let's talk about the story, and I've covered it extensively before, and I'm going to continue doing so in the future, but let's talk about the pacing specifically. The pacing is really, really solid for the most part. Then you get to right after the Nia section in Chapter 6, and the bit after that to the final boss fight is just weird. Feels off to me, like they needed to pad out at the last second or something. That fetch quest just felt like it didn't belong and made me think I was doing a Xenoblade 1 side quest or something. Like, maybe that was the feel they were going for, but that's really not a feeling that I wanted to have again. Origin itself is very pretty, but I wish there was some more going on in there. I feel like a location that's literally the hard drive of all the information for 2 universes could have been a bit more than what it was, you know? You could have gone so far with that idea, and it just kind of felt like going through a less creative world tree in a lot of ways. Wasn't bad, just felt too long and too short at the same time, if that makes sense. I would have preferred a different idea for the final dungeon and maybe a few more story moments throughout. Maybe that could have just smoothed things over, because with the world tree, right, you had section of the world tree big story bit. Section of the world tree, big story bit. Big character development, big happenings going on in the story. Whereas with Origins, it's like, okay, we get in there, hey, look, the Lucky Seven's made of the same stuff, that's cool. Let's get to essentially near the end of the game, or near the end of the entire dungeon. We'll get a cutscene with N, and we'll fight a couple of the other Mobius before that, as little boss fights. Then we'll get the N bit, and then we'll move into the Z fight. I just feel like if you pace the storytelling and that last final bit a little bit better, there are a couple of sections, right, especially near the end of it, where the entirety of the worlds and all the colonies were starting to, like, team up and go, yeah, team, and they started fighting on Origin, which was cool. And then when you got reinforcements, that was a nice little touch, but I just feel like a couple more of moments like that, I feel this could have been a way better section. But overall, I'm really positive coming away from Xenoblade 3. This is a phrase I used a lot for the game when I first played it, and in the months right after, but it felt like they looked back on the previous games, kept what was good, and removed the bad for the most part. And outside of a couple of spots like the pacing near the end, I feel like they largely succeeded in creating a great experience. Hell, it's in my top 10 games ever, so they clearly did something right for me. And maybe it's just growing pains more than anything. 3 to me felt like they are trying to start something new here, whereas 1 and 2 felt more self-contained. But with 3, it feels like they are trying a bunch of new stuff to see what sticks, to take that into the future. And honestly, 2 thumbs up for me. Love Xenoblade 3, and I can't wait to see what comes next. So yeah, I'm going to call the video there for the day. Hope you all enjoyed it. As much as I enjoyed playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the game is so freaking good. The music, the environments, I know I said before that I do prefer the environments from 1 and 2, but that doesn't mean I don't like the environments from 3. I love them. Especially getting all the references, exploring the world itself. There's so much I want to say about exploring the world, because that needs a separate video. It's so fun. It really is. They did so many things, right? Where, coming off of the high of Xenoblade 1 and 2, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of expecting a little bit of a lull here. Maybe. Like, either this game's going to absolutely blow me away, or I'm going to be completely disappointed with it, and it blew me away. Monolith just has a way of delivering consistently good experiences one after the other. And I said this before, and I'll say it again, Xenoblade just does not miss. It really, truly doesn't. And if you liked the video, please leave a comment down below with your thoughts, your opinions on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. What's the thing you liked the most, and what's the thing you liked the least? Let me know. Or I hated the most. Let me know. I want to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe out there, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.